Hello, adventurers! My name is Chance, welcome to my Spellbook, and thank you so much for taking a look at the 14th episode in our background series. Today we're going over a rather interesting one. May I introduce you to the new and improved Charlatan? Just kidding, although not really. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Dimir Operative, which is found in the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, and this background more or less completely replaced the Charlatan at most people's tables. I've seen a couple comments regarding the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica backgrounds, of which this is one, and how they're kind of overpowered relative to a lot of the others. This is a very clear example of why a lot of people have that impression and why that is the prevailing narrative. So, without further ado here, let's take a look at its description. You are a spy. Secrets and misinformation are your stock in trade. You skulk in the shadows, infiltrate other guilds, and steal the most precious secrets, whether they are written in locked journals or hidden in someone's mind. Very cool stuff, absolutely amazing sounding description. Let's take a look at their extended spell lists. As cantrips, they gain Encoded Thoughts and Mage Hand. We've, of course, done videos on those in the past. And in addition to their current first level spells, they also gain access to Disguise Self and Sleep, which are certainly very useful. Second level spells, they gain Detect Thoughts and Pass Without Trace. Third level, they gain Gaseous Form, Meld into Stone, and Non-Detection. At fourth level, they gain Arcane Eye and Freedom of Movement, and at fifth level, they gain Modify Memory. Needless to say, there is certainly a theme here. A lot of it has to do with stealth and reading people's minds, which is certainly two things any spy would benefit greatly from. Not to mention just sounds super cool. These are all really good spells as well. In terms of notable ones, Pass Without Trace is great. So is Sleep for that matter. Gaseous Form is absolutely fantastic. And Meld into Stone makes for some absolutely amazing roleplay moments. Very cool stuff overall. And of course, Modify Memory is just... it's a messy spell, let me tell you. We haven't gotten around to covering it yet, but I am certainly looking forward to it. Most of them we've talked about at some point or another, though. In any case, let's quickly move on here to its mechanics. Under skill proficiencies, I doubt you will be surprised to realize it's Deception and Stealth, which are arguably two of the best skills in the game to have. Under tool proficiencies, you gain access to the Disguise Kit, and under languages, you gain access to one of your choice. The equipment here is rather interesting. So you gain the Dimir Insignia, which makes it so you can gain access to the guild and they know who you are. You also gain access to 3 small knives and dark-colored common clothes. This is where it gets interesting, however. You also gain the starting equipment of any background described in this playlist for your secondary guild. This is kind of one of those things where your DM might need to build the world in a certain way to accommodate this. It's really plausible for any of the backgrounds we've covered so far to become part of a guild in one form or another, whether or not it's a sports association or a magic university or something of those lines. You can kind of weasel your way in there and gain whatever equipment they also have access to, which is pretty cool overall, and that's where you'd get your gold amount from, stuff like that. In any case, let's move on to its feature. Now, much like the Charlatan, the Dimir Operative has access to false identity as well, and if you've seen our video on the Charlatan, you'll know that I believe this feature is arguably the best in the game, depending on the world you're living in and how much of a rural versus urban environment you're dealing with, and if there's any metropolises kicking around. In any case, you have more than one identity. The one you wear most of the time makes you appear to be a member of a guild other than House Dimir. You have documentation, established acquaintances, and disguises that allow you to assume that persona and fit into the secondary guild. Whenever you choose, you can drop this identity and blend into the gilded or guildless masses of the city. It's really interesting, and it does beg the question, if you can do this with one identity, what's to stop you from doing it with multiple? The biggest drawback to the Dimir Operative relative to the Charlatan is the lack of a forgery kit. However, that's a relatively small hurdle to overcome when it comes to falsifying information. You could always kind of cheap out and use magic to do it. Alternatively, you could always just pay another forger to give you another identity in addition to your own. It really is interesting. It's still one of my all-time favorite features, and it does beg the question, if you assume the identity of another background, do you also gain their feature as your own as well? I used Shelter of Faithful in my example with the Charlatan, but it would likely apply to most other backgrounds, with a couple noble exceptions, like maybe Athlete, for example. It'd be kind of hard to fake something like that. Although still doable, it might require a little bit more effort, maybe some subplots along the way, and maybe that's the best way of handling this from a Dungeon Master's perspective. Now let's move on to some suggested characteristics. As with most of the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica backgrounds, they're really well done. I really do like it. Overall, Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica provides quite arguably some of the best backgrounds, not only from a mechanical perspective, but from a flavor perspective as well, and this is really no exception. So for the personality trait, just for the example, I went with I'm good at hiding my true thoughts and feelings, which alongside false identity makes a ton of sense. Under ideal, control, I like pulling the strings, and this will put you a tick towards that lawful direction. Under bond, I discovered a secret I can't let anyone else uncover, including my guild superiors. And for the flaw, I have trouble trusting anyone but myself. All of these synergize really well and provide some relatively interesting party moments. With this particular setup, it's up to you, the Dungeon Master, and your fellow party members IRL, how far you want to take this. I don't recommend lying to party members at the table, out of character. In character, it's a little different. It might be worth having that discussion in advance. Just be like, hey, my character's a really secretive dude. Would you like me to clarify what the truth is after the fact, when we're talking normally? Or would you prefer I keep it a secret from you, even in IRL? And then just tell the Dungeon Master kind of what's going on, or even have a conversation with them in advance. Ultimately, just be courteous to the other people at the table, and remember it's a group co-op game. It's not really a single-player thing. Although, I have heard tale of it being possible, but for the most part, you're going to be playing in a group. In any case, it's really good. Now let's get to my personal thoughts on it. I feel very similar to the Dimir Operative as I do to the Charlatan, which shouldn't be too surprising. It's just really, really good. One of the best backgrounds in the game from a mechanical angle, at least. There's a lot you can do with it as well from a Dungeon Master's perspective. For example, if the party starts to make a lot of sloppy choices, there might be the risk of one of your secret identities being uncovered and thwarted. And there's always the argument to be made that if you don't provide substantial alibis or give enough life to your false identities, they'll fold in on themselves relatively quickly as well. So some upkeep is required. A good way to prevent this from getting overwhelmingly good is to assign a gold value to that. Like, Take a look at the lifestyle that the false identity would be doing, multiply it by 2, and then assign that daily cost to the player or the party as a whole, depending on if everyone's benefiting from it. That might be the best way to kind of make it so there's more resource management involved with this particular feature. However, outside of that, looking at its mechanics, really strong. Does lack the forgery kit, but whatever, it is what it is. Getting skill proficiencies, tool proficiencies, and languages all in one, as well as additional equipment, plus really whatever other equipment you want, is also really, really good. Overall, I think it's fantastic. I know why a lot of DMs dislike the Ravnica backgrounds. However, personally, I still feel as though there are way more tools in the DM's toolbox than there will ever be in any individual players. That being said, let me know what you think down beneath in the comment section. Be sure to mention any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, potential plot hooks, or experiences of your own you've had. In any case, I hope you all have a great day, and if you'd like to get a free one-shot, just use code WELCOME over at the Guild Hall, and it'll happen. I hope you all have a great day, and as always, happy adventuring, everyone.